Hello. If you're new to the channel, welcome. So I've decided to do something a little bit different with this video. I kind of want to do been wanting to do this for a while, a tutorial slash time lapse. Now, if you can't tell by my username, I love cars, and as an animator, Pixar's Cars has had my heart since I was a kid. So in this video, I'm just gonna draw some cars, some real life cars in the style of the concept artists behind the movies, and kind of go over the do's and don'ts of Cars character design. So for this video, I'll be drawing 3 fan favorite BMWs. We all know BMW, even if you've never driven one or ridden in one, you're kind of familiar. I actually drive a BMW. I drive an old E93 series, which is in the shop now for a bent rim, went over a nasty pothole, whatever. But the E90 has appeared multiple times as a Cars character, so whenever I see it on screen, I'm like, hey, that's my car! We've seen early 70s, new class 2002s, modern Mini, you can make an argument, is a BMW. In Cars 3, we meet the character Sterling. He's unlicensed, he's an in-house Pixar design, but he's very influenced by the 2000 CS series. And so for my first BMW, I'll design that original E9 or CS that Sterling's based on from the early 70s. A little background on the CS, chassis code E9. A lot of people don't know this now, but BMW was a struggling company for many years. They might not have made it past the 1960s had it not been for what they call their new class cars, in which they poured more money and resources into better driving dynamics, engines, and outsourced designs. Now, BMW had already made a name for itself domestically, but the new class cars like the E9 and the aforementioned cheaper 2002 paved the way for BMW's international success. In an otherwise bleak 1970s automotive landscape, Road and Track had this to say: "The BMW E9's great distinctions are all-around balance, fine finish, precision mechanicals, and some of the nicest sounds to ever delight an enthusiast's ear. It's not a tire burner, and some cars with wider tires will corner faster, but it has enough acceleration, plenty of top speed, sufficient cornering power, excellent handling characteristics, a gearbox that is pure pleasure to operate, an engine that gets remarkable fuel economy, and an eye-pleasing finish, all the way from a handsome engine compartment to a trunk fit to live in." Now, as far as this design as a Cars character goes, I'm inspired by the drawings of Bob Pauly and Jay Schuster that were just like quick pencil sketches just to get something on the paper, an expression, just to show what this car would look like if it were to have a face. Now I'm just going to add some finishing touches here, but I'm going to add a gradient on the side to resemble the paint and the shine. You'll notice I'll also squash it a bit and toy with the proportions. You can play with the proportions a bit on a car as a character, but you don't want to go too much. You want to be faithful to what the car looks like in real life. Windshield eyes are easy enough, but the mouth placement varies on a lot of cars. As far as mouth placement goes, you either put the mouth on the bumper if it's big enough, you could use the bumper as a bottom lip, or you could just move the bumper to the complete bottom of the front end of the car, just to clear any space for a mouth.
You guys don't mind, just tell me who you guys are. Just give me names.
I'm Jay Schuster. I was a production designer for character design on Cars 3.
I'm Jude Brambo. I'm directing animation.
Michael Comet. I was character supervisor, co-supervisor.
Well,
What's this bumper?
Yeah, we look for a convenient division between grill and bumper, like on Doc Hudson. You know, like there just happened to be this division there.
I went with kind of a middle ground where I move the bumper down a little, but I also sort of use it as a bottom lip when it needs to be, but not all the time. Because we don't want the metal of the bumper to bend too much.
Yeah, these cars talk, and yeah, they move and they bend, but they can't look like rubber. You have to have truth materials. It is metal and it is paint, and you can only bend it so far before chrome would crack or paint would chip off. We want people to look at it and say, that's 5,000 pounds moving around.
I'm a big advocate for bumper lips in Cars character designs. It's not really something they do anymore, just so that the face reads, especially as a character. That's what you need, like from a distance or in a crowd shot. But I wanted to draw the E9 from a different angle, a trickier angle to put a face on, just to flesh out the design further so that I know what it looks like from other angles and that the design works from, like, no matter where you look at it. The mantra at Pixar for coming up with a new Cars character is character first, car second. Why is this character that car? Or what personality would this car have?
How do you animate a whole world of characters without arms and legs and have differences in the way that they act? You try to study each character and the elements of the character that are going to make them unique, and also study what's unique about that model car.
So the E9, well, Sterling was kind of like a businessman, young, well-dressed, and so I imagine these older CSs or E9s would be very similar. Competitive but classy, you know, he'd be in a tailored suit, but he could still beat you at the track. Now I'm going to do some passes to see what this character would look like if the storyboard artists were to draw them, or how a Pixar story artist would draw the character. It'd be a lot more minimal, it'd be a lot quicker, but I want to get the identity and the soul of the E9 through with these quick drawings. I especially love Steve Purcell's storyboards, or the way he designs the cars. They're so cute and minimal, it's influenced the way I've doodled in notebooks for years. The first drawing on the left is most likely how they would do the mouth placement today. They would just move the bumper all the way to the bottom of the car just to have enough real estate to add a full mouth there. Just gonna add some quick shading and these should be good to go. Cars 4 coming soon. For my second BMW, I'm gonna do a newer classic, a more young-timer one. This is the E36 M3, one of the great sports cars of the 90s. General consensus among enthusiasts is that it's not the best M3, but it is a cult classic and it's finally getting the attention it deserves. Its predecessor, the E30 M3, has somewhat of a legendary status, inviting countless comparisons to how far short the E36 falls behind it. Poor build quality, plasticky interior, abysmal US spec engine, but despite it all, it's still beloved. Car and Driver named it their best handling car for more than $30,000 in 1997. The hardest part about bringing this one to life was really the mouth. Because the M3 front end is kind of cluttered, you'll notice there's the two BMW kidney grills, but whenever there's that other grill underneath, that big intake, that will always be replaced with a mouth. I've seen artists online keep that secondary grill, but every time a real car has that, always swap it with a mouth. Now, 90s cars, you don't see a lot of 90s cars as Cars characters. It's tricky, you have that black stripe going across. You don't have a lot of room for a mouth, so what I did, I just kind of like cut it in half. It's there on both sides, but I don't have it going all the way across. So who is this character? Definitely a racer, definitely maybe a street racer. She looks great in that Dakar yellow. There's one just like it in my neighborhood, I love that shade. Competitive, maybe a little too competitive, but a lot of fun to race with.
Have you done an Isetta? I don't think you've done an Isetta.
No,
Okay, there's a good one. Let's see an Isetta.
So the last BMW I'll draw is the most un-BMW ever built. It's definitely their weirdest model, and it's a total cult classic. This is the Isetta, built in the 1950s. The story of it, so it's what's called a bubble car, which was just a little cheap car with a tiny motor, just to get Europeans on wheels. After the war, Europe was in shambles and its people needed cheap, durable cars. Didn't matter what the quality was, just cheap little things to get them on wheels and moving again. And BMW, of course, was struggling after the war. They partnered with Italian company Isetta, who had made the Isetta, and pretty much badge engineered, made their own version of it. I just love it that the car that saved BMW is nothing like anything they've ever made. The closest would maybe be the i3, just in terms of quirkiness, but still nothing like the Isetta will ever be made again by BMW, and that's what I love so much about it. So this is going to be a cheerful little guy. He's happy. He's happy to be an Isetta today. Now the tricky thing always comes back to mouth placement. The Isetta What's unique about it is its front end is its door. It opens outward and you enter from the front. So if you put the mouth on the door, you're left wondering, okay, well if the door opens, what's on the other side? Lungs? So it's tricky. In cars, they never open the doors. They never answer the question of what's inside. But just in case, I'm gonna do a version where I put a mouth underneath. It's tricky, it's kind of a long face. I'm kind of inspired by Hank the Octopus from Finding Dory, how he had a very long face with a mouth at the bottom of his body. I'm gonna do some mouth shapes on the side just to give an idea of what this would look like. Talking, I'm not a very big fan of how it turns out. We don't want the mouth too low on the body, because then it just doesn't really look like a face anymore. Plus, if there's like a low bump or a rock in the road, the jaw might hit it.
That's right. This is the challenge. This is like where the character department will
Right.
come in and say, how are we gonna, and animation, you know, how can we make it move? Can
Right.
we make sure that the mouth doesn't interact too much with the headlight? You don't want to see that squish. It's about that truth to materials.
And so, you know what? Zundap has his mouth on his door, Guido has his mouth on what's presumably his door. I'm gonna stick with the original design with the mouth on the door. So I'm gonna do here a quick storyboard pass, and drawing the Isetta in such little strokes reminded me that Cars originally was going to star an Isetta, or at least an Isetta-like car. It reminds me of Jürgen Klubien's original boards for Yellow Car, which was the original pitch for Cars. It was an ugly duckling story about a little electric European car in a town full of full-size, gas-guzzling American cars. The story reel is still online. Jürgen Klubien's story behind it is super interesting. A link to that story reel in his portfolio will be in the description if you want to check that out. And so I'll draw him at the top here competing with some familiar faces, and then at the bottom meeting some other familiar faces. Luigi and Guido, he's found his kind. So that was the video. I hope you enjoyed it. It's different for me, but if you like this style of video, I can keep making it. You know I love drawing cars, so I'm down to do this anytime. I hope I didn't talk too much. I hope I didn't talk too loudly. Leave a comment if you liked it. Various links will be in the description. I'll see you around.